Hi, this is review video number 4, and again, Boca would like to be a part of this video. Let's see if she settles down. We ended the last video during daylight. Yeah, I had to teach this afternoon, so it is the evening, and we left off on the review sheet talking about stylized dances. And I just want to remind you that those are dances that are meant to be listened to, right? Not danced to. The next question on the review sheet is, how can the typical Baroque dance form be diagrammed in letters? So remember, we use letters to diagram form. Basically, there are two parts. It's in binary form, and each part is repeated. So we've got A, B, B. That's how it's diagrammed. A, B, B. Those are all little letters, by the way, because it's an internal form. The next question is, what are the general characteristics of the Baroque dance suite? The Baroque dance suite has multiple movements, thus it's a suite, S-U-I-T-E. It's also suite, S-W-E-E-T sometimes, if it's a good one. The movements are in no particular order, but what you need to remember is that the actual movements do have the form of A-A-B-B. We just went over that. That form is standardized. What's next? What was the most important genre in Baroque secular vocal music? Opera! You got it. Opera was the most important genre in Baroque secular vocal music. Remember, secular is not sacred. And opera was definitely not sacred. I mean, sometimes it covered some religious topics, but in general was not sacred. What is the name for the singing style characterized by fast runs and scales, a large pitch range, cadenzas, and virtuosic displays of all sorts? Well, we actually didn't get to this in class, so it's really important that you write this down. That is called coloratura, C-O-L-O-R-A-T-U-R-A. Think about it being colorful. That will help you to remember it. And it's also, of course, in your book on opera and on vocal music in the late Baroque. So again, that style, coloratura, is defined by its grand gestures, its fast scales, its really impressive runs and trills and things like that. So it's really impressive style of singing, virtuosic style of singing. Next is another area we didn't quite get to in class, and that is opera seria. Opera seria is a style of Baroque opera that originated in Italia, in Italy. Basically, opera seria, just like the word suggests, is more serious opera. It's opera based on more serious topics instead of humorous topics. The technique of declaiming words musically in a heightened theatrical manner is called recitative. And we covered that right at the beginning of this unit. Remember, there are two main parts in opera, two main forms. We've got the recitative and we've got the aria. Now, the aria has its own basic form, but the recitative is much more free-flowing. And as I just stated, it is a style where the actors in the opera are basically speaking. It's a sing-songy type style, but there aren't really memorable melodies that are being used. So important things to remember about recitative, because I know that's on your term list, is that a recitative is accompanied by sometimes continuo instruments. So usually there's a sparse and thin accompaniment of just continuo instruments, and that's called secco recitative. Secco means dry. But also there is what's known as accompanied recitative, which means that it's accompanied, hi Boca, by, there she is, isn't she cute? It's accompanied by the orchestra. So we have accompanied recitative and secco recitative. By the way recitative works is that it's usually used to describe what's happening in the plot. It's an action part. Think about it, people are talking, there's dialogue. Arias are different. Arias are much more sing-songy, and they have memorable melodies usually. There's often repetition, but you won't find repetition in a recitative. You will in an aria. So actually that just brought us to, if we skip a question, it says, which is true of an aria and how is it different from a recitative? So I have here that an aria has coherence and musical elaboration. It represents a moment when the character is reflecting. It has repetition and is usually accompanied by the entire orchestra. That's another difference. So an aria is usually accompanied by the entire orchestra. This contrasts with the recitative, which has little to no repetition, is sung in a speaking style, is used for the plot or for the action of the opera, and has little to no repetition. Okay, I did skip a question, and that question was about castrati. It says castrati generally sang blank parts, and those are soprano or alto solo parts. So they sang the high parts, because they were able to, due to their surgical adjustments. All right, next question. We're still on vocal music, and we happen to still be basically an opera. The question is, in da capo form, more elaborate ornamentation occurs primarily in the blank sections. Well, first of all, just to remind you what da capo means, is it means from the head. And it means that the singer should go back to the beginning and perform the first section one more time. Well, not just the singer, the orchestra too. It happens in arias. So we find da capo arias are very common in the Baroque era. So, I said when it returns. So basically, what happens in the da capo aria is we have an A section, a B section, and then it's written in the score, da capo, and that means that we go back to the A section, they repeat the A section, and that on the repeat, which is usually shorter, on the repeat of the aria, that's when you will find all the ornamentation and the addition of all these little runs and things like that. That's where the virtuosic display happened. And do you remember what that style of singing is called, when there's a lot of fast runs and cadenzas and things like that? It starts with a C. It's very colorful. Coloratura. You've got it. All right. I'll just do a few more. Which two instruments would most likely have played basso continuo part in a Baroque composition? We covered this. You know this answer. And we know that really there's not necessarily just two instruments. I actually don't know if this question is on the exam, come to think of it. But basically, we would have an instrument playing the lower line, like a bassoon or a cello. But the thing to remember is that the harpsichord was really important in continual playing. So it's usually the harpsichord is playing the chords above the bass line, and possibly the theorbo or a lute would also do that same kind of thing. But we did need a chordal instrument. Chordal meaning playing chords, because that's what basso continuo at this time is all about. Okay. We're almost done. We're almost to the listening. Let me go here. Oh, let's see if we can finish in time. In which country did Handel compose most of his operas and oratorios? In England. And in fact, the large majority are in English, so we can actually understand them. If you think of the Messiah, you are thinking of something in English. King of Kings, right? That is in English. Sorry, I was a little off pitch there. Many Baroque operas dealt with ancient blank, whereas oratorios dealt with ancient blank. The first answer is Rome, ancient Rome, and oratorios dealt with ancient Israel because they were related to the church and the Bible and stories of the Bible. Okay. Okay, that basically covers all the review sheet. I do have this question, which is true of an oratorio, but I don't really know what I mean there. I think you're probably going to have to distinguish between, I know you're going to have to distinguish between oratorios and cantatas, and that's going to be for another video though, because we're basically out of time. So probably the next video I will cover questions on the listening, and then I'll do perhaps one more video, if needed, I think there will be, on a few of the terms. Even though really, come to think of it, I won't do that. You don't need that. Your terms are in your book. So you can review all the definitions of your term list by looking into the glossary at the back of your book, looking through your notes, and I've actually already talked about a lot of those terms in these videos so far. So, one video left on listening, and we're done. You are set. Remember, you can rewind and play, and I'm expecting you guys to do very well, and don't you love this cat? Isn't she cute? Okay, that covers it.